So Street Fighter 2 is obviously one of the greatest fighting games of all time. In my opinion, the #1 fighting game of all time. And upon review, I'm reminded why. Because ultimately we see what happened with Street Fighter 1, right? How a lot of the bones and the setup for what would eventually become the most celebrated fighting game franchise ever, especially in the 90s, we're all there. And it's just, it's funny to see it all refined so well the way it is in Street Fighter 2. So I wanted to do something a bit different as we were playing through the game. I wanted to sort of experience elements of Street Fighter 2 that I missed out on. And the big thing was glitches, right? So the #1 thing we did, the first thing I wanted to learn was how the hell do we do fun, weird, like the Guile handcuff glitch. Ha! That's easy as shit! That's so easy! Oh my god! I'm gonna do that to Bison at the very end, and eventually learned how to do a bunch of other stuff, including a stance glitch. Oh! And a thing called a magic throw. Gotcha, bitch! Got it. And it was my goal to try to land a few of these during a playthrough, and we do, which was fun. It was fun to utilize some things that even in Street Fighter 2 you feel like you have all this familiarity. Guile is just an absolute cornucopia. He's like the sentinel of this game, where he gets access to the most ridiculous, insane stuff that is an absolute blast to try to pull off, from chain throws and untechable throws in like every single direction. It's genuinely cool. I hate these elephants so much. I don't even hear the music. I just hear the damn elephants. So I like Guile a lot, and I didn't play him historically. I mostly stuck with like Shotos, and when I was younger, Blanca. And to not be as redundant when we played, you know, Street Fighter 2 on the fighting games that made me, SF2, I think, still looks great to this day, visually. What I wanted to do was directly compare that to the SNES version, which we just got done playing. And the SNES version, while not an ideal visual parody with the arcade version, it looks like you're playing the Game Boy version of the game. But it's the same thing for other games like Killer Instinct, right? So I don't think that's really a bad thing. This is how the majority of us played Street Fighter 2. A lot of money was absolutely dumped into the arcades, but until you directly compare SF2 on the arcade version right next to, or within a small period of time, to the SNES version, so arcade version, SNES version, anybody in the 90s would feel that, oh, this is just the same game, right? It's the same thing, it's the same package, it's awesome. And yeah, from that perspective, yeah, Street Fighter 2 on the SNES was just like the greatest friggin' port ever. Brought everything you loved of the arcade version home. And that was the case with a lot of arcade ports of games. If they got close enough where the feel was there, then you were good. A lot of things, from what I understand, didn't carry over, right? I know these games have ridiculous like bugs and combos in them. I don't think everything was one-to-one in Street Fighter 2 The World Warrior on SNES. So for the comparison of what we were playing, I was just going to try out like Ryu and stuff like that. And some things are hilariously weird, like DP is not that good. Comboing into DP in Street Fighter 2 is kind of bad. It's got 2 hits to it, and they don't knock down for some reason, so it's specifically an anti-air. Wow, dude. Heavy DP doesn't even knock down from range. Holy shit. That's insane. The nice part is that the character feel still is there. Like Street Fighter 2 character feel is here in the SNES version. What I don't like, right, and I feel like it wasn't present nearly as much in the Super Nintendo version as it was in the arcade version. The friggin' arcade version is cheap. Unthrowable. That's that computer cheese kicking in right there. They're unthrowable in that situation, and any other character they get thrown. And in the same way we noticed Street Fighter 1 arcade is cheap, Street Fighter 2 arcade is aggressive. And there's been some great videos by Desk that actually go over the multitude of reasons and how the game pulls this off to get your money. It'll do things like your attacks suddenly do almost no damage, while the computer's attacks do like 4 to 5 times the damage it normally does. We had that happen. I got hit by a fireball from Sagat, and I felt like it did 40%.
That's what we like to call
the damage. Oh my god. So not just input reading, right? Not just that stuff. There's moments where I was successfully throwing the opponent. I heard the hurt sound and they should go flying, but nothing happened. And it's like the computer teched the throw in a game where there is no throw techs. It's genuinely cheap. And I highly recommend, if you want to learn more on Street Fighter 2, to check out Desk's video to understand how goofy the game is on a core level. Hold on a second, this isn't in the arcade. So sick. I don't really, it's hard to say what else needs to be said about SF2. The thing that I like is that we at least got to investigate stuff that I had never tried before, right? There's things in this game and the multitude of games that we're gonna play going forward for this Street Fighter retrospective / legacy, where I just want to try to do stuff that I've never done and execute things in a way that I've always known are there and actually do them, actually learn how they work. And lucky enough, SF2 is a game that's full of an absolute ridiculous amount of bugs, and because of it, we were able to execute a few of those on the computer, which was pretty fun to do. The fuck out of here. You get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. I don't know if Street Fighter 2 will ever be matched, is what I'm trying to say. After completely gushing about this game for so many years and trying to let people know how big of a deal it was, this game sold somewhere between like 6 to 8 million copies on Super Nintendo back in the 90s. And that number is astronomical considering the size of the industry. I think between all the versions of SF2, if you talk about Hyper Fighting and Championship Edition, all those games got put together in a huge sales salad that is probably closing in on friggin' like 20 million copies. And for the 90s is just bonkers. Just an absolute insane number. It was a worldwide phenomenon. And the way that it took the world by storm was still seen to this day.
Nope. Nope. Try again.
That was cheap as shit! That was cheap as shit! What the hell, man? I still back my argument that Street Fighter 2 is the greatest fighting game of all time. I still back my argument it was one of the most influential games of all time as well. And while not the most technically polished, to see that they came from Street Fighter 1 to this is crazy. Other funny, like, factoids about this, a lot of the team that made Street Fighter 2 right after this would jump ship from Capcom and go to another company to make a slew of other fighting games. And that's SNK. A very large part of Capcom's development staff of the Street Fighter 2 team jumped ship soon after and are responsible for old school Fatal Furies and everything of the like. They made Samurai Showdown. It's crazy. And you feel that. Like, these games have like a similar sort of like feel to them where they were learning off of each other. And the reason that happened was because of kind of like Street Fighter 2. So games like Art of Fighting and all that stuff are pretty much like married to SF2 in some ways because it was like Street Fighter 1 devs and Street Fighter 2 devs that eventually just made their way over. So it's crazy, right? It's the reason why when you look at the credits of all of these games, you see ridiculous names, like the names of developers that are not their names at all, because they did not want their talent to be poached back in the 80s and 90s. So they gave fake names in the credits, which doesn't seem fair at all. And that is, of course, illegal now. But that's how they hid themselves. That's how there was no way to find out who the hell was who when games were being made. So you couldn't go over and snipe them and offer them a better salary or something, which seems pretty unfair. So yeah, you know, classic video game industry isn't the most pretty of situations, but it did result in a whole bunch of crazy fighting games that came out of Japan at this time. And there's a good reason why they feel as good as they do, because they were all kind of made by the same people. And here we are now. Ooh, what? There we go. There we go. Guile, where's your wife? Does Guile have the crazy looking wife in this? No, Ken has the blow up doll wife in this one. Hey, Bison, I'm gonna do the handcuff glitch on you.
I'm gonna chain throw your ass into eternity.
Killing Bison won't bring Charlie back. It will simply make you a murderer. Mommy and I still love you. Oh God, it's bad dad Guile. Amy, is that you? Yeah, you forgot you had a daughter, you weirdo. My little Amy, you friggin' weirdo. Honey, what's wrong? Huh? Oh. Nothing. Sweetheart. A lot of honeys and sweethearts and babies and shit like that. I just feel like I'm waking up from a dream. A long nightmare. Oh, okay, that's the same thing. I love you, Jane. I love you, Borinda, whatever my daughter's name is. I also love this dog. Game over.